So we're back.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. We got
Been
a
a good
special
week.
guest today.
Excellent.
Yes, Piper. What's up, my friend?
Hey, what's going on?
Welcome, Piper.
Thanks.
So for those of you who are watching, Piper is one of the OG members in our room. In my opinion, he's pretty much a founding member. He is one of my original trading partners from back in the day. And we've made a ton of progress and a ton of money together coming up and learning our process and our system. And now Piper has made so much money that I barely see him. And he has been on vacation for like a month and a half. So this conversation that we're going to have is pretty much almost like the first conversation that you and I have had really in months. So it'll be kind of interesting. And obviously, Rob and I have been working on all kinds of shit. So this will be a good chance for you to get kind of caught up on everything.
Yeah, definitely behind the curve. I took that sell and man go away, methodology to heart. And I'm like, man, you only live once, man. I'm going to enjoy the summer. So that's what I've been doing.
You really did just sell in May and go
Out of
away.
here.
Yeah. Well, we were kind of a little BSing this morning in chat. You were like, man, I haven't looked at the screens in so long. I need to fire stuff up. So the market has made some pretty volatile, crazy moves. I mean, I'm sure that nothing is in the same place as you remember it, and that goes across all assets, but besides maybe Bitcoin, because that fucking thing hasn't moved it's been in the same range for like a year. So other than that, everything else is probably pretty shaken up by now, wouldn't you say?
Just a quick high level stuff that I've looked at. Yeah, Bitcoin's been in that range, and we maybe not start with crypto, but there's some nice levels below. Obviously, you shared a chart this morning. I totally get into that. We've just been making lower lows, lower highs on that. We could get a high loss on that thing and dump down to where we want to buy.
It could, yeah, it could. I'm actually like, the crypto space has been percolating for some time. I mean, we had that massive push up, and you and I mean, that whole time that we were making new all time highs, I kept telling you something doesn't feel right. Like this was the weirdest bull market that we've had probably ever. You and I have been in 3 bull markets together on crypto, and this was the first time that I've seen Bitcoin make new all-time highs, and altcoins. Well, I'm not going to say all of them because some of them followed, but the majority of them did not. And usually during a crypto bull cycle, like you could just throw a dart and make money. And this time was a little different. Like you had some serious laggers out there, and then you had particular coins that really just outperformed. And what was weird is this cycle, it was really a meme coin cycle. It was Bitcoin and meme coins. I mean, they just went hard as hell. And some of the more utility based coins just didn't have the best luck. They really didn't. Like even Link had a nice push up, but I mean that's a huge Oracle type coin that people use for like processing data and pulling in information, and that's like they're the biggest player in the space, and I don't even think it pumped 50% off the lows. I don't so it was just a weird cycle this cycle. So that's
Very niche. Like say meme coins are crazy. But yeah, obviously the market cap or the dominance for Bitcoin just smoking everything that we typically would look at, from a utility perspective, other than Sol, right? So Sol's programmable. That was one of the ones. If you got in, you're good. If not, if you're an ETH, you're kind of meh. A lot of these other ones, like you say, Link, not a whole lot going on there.
No. So I figure we'll take some time and we'll kind of breeze through a few markets. But in the meantime, let's kind of chop it up. Rob, you have been like nosing the computer all morning looking for juicy tidbits.
I know.
Tell us what you've come up with, please.
Nothing too much on the Bitcoin space or anything.
No. Forget that. That's
no,
okay.
no. I've been kind of like noodling on this whole rate cut thing and how to think about the rate cut, because over the past few years, rate cuts have just been the catalyst to just keep pushing us higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
But the real reason, people were, when you have a rate cut after you've tried to avoid a recession or whatever is because the market's not doing as well as it should. But
Agreed.
we're points away from all-time highs, and rate cut is guaranteed on the horizon. And I've seen some analysis suggesting that okay, that actually is probably that could be a fairly negative sign this time around. And
I
just
would agree.
sort of like being cautious. It's not like I'm not still bullish. I'm still bullish until the rate cuts. But when that does happen in a month or so, then I might not be. And I'm just kind of like noodling on how deep that pullback could be because I've seen anywhere between 10 to 30% kind of pushes depending on how the economy adapts and evolves with that rate cut. Not that just one rate cut would be monumental, but usually only cutting rates when things are looking bad, and we're near all-time high. So I don't think things are that bad. But obviously, we had when we had that 10% drop last week. We've had people requesting emergency rate cuts, things like
Yeah,
that to get around it. And, by the end of the week, we
ridiculous.
were back up. And so it feels like we're on shaky ground in terms of not like right now, not the immediate, like next week future, but a little bit beyond that. And so I've just been kind of like trying to figure out how to keep a good analysis around that and just obviously I'm just gonna the way we trade I'm sticking to technicals. That's what really matters to me, but I am gonna keep my ear to the ground in case this thing really starts to look like it's gonna roll after rate cuts, not until then.
Well, you've taken the words essentially right out of my mouth. As far as being a bearish sign, right? So, you stated specifically, like usually rate cuts happen when things are bad and they need to kind of like either pull back and kind of stimulate the economy a little bit or what have you. And so, again, I am in the same camp as you. I am bullish until they cut rates. I mean, there's no reason not to be.
Not to be.
The
Yeah.
chart really tells us to go that direction. And I do honestly believe that we are going to make new all-time highs on at least the S&P. But like the same camp as you, like I'm a little cautious. If we're at new all-time highs, why are you cutting rates? Right? Like something's wrong here. I don't care if you've already met your inflation target or not. Like you do that as a sign of weakness in the overall broader strength. And I saw this post this morning and I thought it was really interesting. So I wanted to share it. But this was after rate raises and then they started to cut. This guy posted this and it was just really interesting to me that in 2001, when they did that, we fell 39% over the course next year and a half. And then when they did it again in 07, we fell first 50% over the next year. So, what is going to happen to us this time, right? And it may be nothing, but it may be something. We don't really know. I mean, the political landscape and the way that the market is starting to shape up is it's weird.
It does. It feels like the market over the past 10 plus years has gotten used to rate cuts as like the heroin needle to like take us higher. And there was always this, let's push it down to zero, just keep doing the rate cuts over and over and over again. And so I think there's this, oh, sweet, they're cutting. Let's keep going higher. But if you pull back, like, they're cutting rates because things aren't going as smoothly as planned. But
It's true. Yeah. And usually rate cuts, they're good, especially for tech companies, because that means they can borrow money at a cheaper rate and
right.
Then they can kind of boost things up. But, the Mag 7 is like on a crack pipe right now. I mean, this thing is already way up there, So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I am certainly a little bit leery. Obviously, I'm full bull, and we'll get into that later, whether we do it on here or we do it on the weekend review. But, I am, I think risk on, at least for now. And I don't know quite how much higher, but at least this week, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you shared a really cool thing with me, and I'm going to pull it up right now, and I'll let you kind of talk it over. But this goes in hand with our rate comment here. All right, Rob. So kick this around for us, because I read this twice, and this is a post from Wayne Whaley, and never heard of the guy, but obviously the information looks pretty legitimate. and I thought that it was extremely interesting. So if you wouldn't mind going over this, that'd be super.
Oh, yeah, sure. So basically, this is looking at more of a cyclical breakdown of how bullish or bearish certain times of the year are. So it's fairly fairly straightforward. But he's gathered enough data going back 50 years to sort of categorize um, more bullish months, and wanted to show that some of these big jumps come in the last week of September, which
Right.
catches up, and that sort of dovetails nicely with the third quarter options expiration week, as well as when a bunch of earnings come out. And so, given that, this is just showing sort of we've got a high potential for still, as we were talking about, still being bullish and having a pretty good September based on the historical trends of cyclicality. That makes sense. That's sort of
And this is all based on years that we were up over 10% by September. And
correct. And we're up
18.
18.
Right.
18%.
So, yeah, and I kind of went through these and looked. It was really just the ones that were like absolutely bloated, like the 26, 37, ones that kind of had the more significant pullbacks. But anything that was like above 10, below 20, really kind of had a nice, solid, consistent 1% to 2% growth for the most part, which I thought was fairly interesting. But like you and I had just stated, when you kind of put up a piece of the puzzle together, they're talking about rate cuts in September. And based on this chart, look at all this red in September.
Right.
So it's, like I said, at least this week I'm long. So
at least this week I'm long.
Yeah. So we'll wait and see. But I mean, history has a tendency to repeat itself. And
yeah,
what we do is based on statistics and probability. So after this week, I'm going to remain fairly cautious. And again, like I said, I do think we still make new all-time highs. SPX looks pretty wide open. ES has got a very questionable spot to me that I'm going to be watching, which we can discuss. But again, I mean, at least I think we traverse up for at least a week. But I thought this was super knowledge anyway. I really appreciate you sharing this with me. So
yeah, I find this guy like posts some really good sort of fact-based, data-based information, and it's a really good way of like slicing things up and trying to put things a little bit in context with what's going on, currently, which is we're up big. What has happened previously when we've been up at least 10%, and I don't have the histogram to show what the over the past 50 years, how much of it we've had over 10% versus 15, but still, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I think it just leads to, and I hate to say this because it's like the worst thing that you could say, but it confirms our bias a little bit more,
Yeah.
I know that a lot of traders specifically look for information to confirm their bias. And so,
what I'm trying to look for is not confirmation, but like confluence, looking for more overlap and where more things are like, okay, stacking up.
Well, if you were bearish, you'd be looking at all the bear porn.
Yeah.
I know it's coming to 20.
Permabear.com. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hyper, you've never been there, right? You've never tried to find information to justify your bias?
No, not at all. So I'm all about historical data and getting all those, sources and data points together. But I mean, I think the Fed broke the market, and I don't think that the historical data is as important as it would be in a traditional market. I mean, pull up the ES SPY, SPX, whatever you want to do. Look at the liquidity that was injected since COVID to stimulate the economy. I think they broke it. I don't really think the historical information is as key or as important as it had been before 2020 COVID.
Well, I mean, listen, we've all been trading longer than COVID, and that push up was insane. And we've had, and this was a time when the world was supposed to be falling apart, literally, right? And we have had some of the most astronomical squeezes, if you want to call it that, But Rob, will send me messages when we have like these insane 2%, 1-2% days. Like, this is fucking cartoons. He's like, they literally are like buying every high tick the entire day. And these are not normal market conditions. Like, you trade gold, you trade oil, you trade, a lot of these other commodities. You don't trade like this. And usually the markets are fairly rational, and there's some rotation, and there's pullbacks into support. Some of these markets are just I don't say some of these markets, let's just call it what it is. The indices in general is just super. I think broken's a great word. I mean, honestly, I really think it is. So
and then the macro guys will tell you that like the PE ratios and things like that aren't completely out of whack, and so that's the bound. There are some that are completely bonkers, right? Like Nvidia and a couple others that are
I think it's 60 times earnings,
or like the Tesla people who are you'll get your return in 400 years or whatever. So there are some complete outliers. And what's interesting is we're getting more and more outliers. They're taking bigger and bigger percentage of the index.
Yeah, it's true.
So if you look at the market breadth, though, look at the Mag 7. Bailey referenced it earlier, right? So that's that's what's pushing the market. It's that small portion of the market that is driving it, really. So really, Nvidia, right? Apple, obviously, Microsoft, Google just got brought up on. They're looking at them as what's the term? Not an enterprise. What's the trying to think what the heck that's called, but basically a monopoly. So they're looking at a monopoly. Well, look at their stock prices went down. Are they going to start targeting other areas? I worry about the social media and the influence that they play in the political realm. And
the elections.
So let's say whoever gets into office, I say, he's obviously aligned with Twitter. Let's say he starts looking at Facebook and the things that were done in the 2020 election, and what happens. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen. I try to stick to the charts and see what they say, but really, if any of these start to fall apart, Apple gets attacked. Obviously, Google's under the microscope right now.
I think Google lost Meta, antitrust lawsuit.
Antitrust, yeah. So they're looking to break them up. So what is going to be the catalyst to get this bubble to pop? And I truly think that we're in a bubble. I know you're talking about the PE ratios. The vast majority of the market, I don't think the PE ratios are way off. It's these other companies that are, right.
So they're actually drifting the market up.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were talking a little bit about the stock market, right, and why they would cut rates, it's really not the stock market, right? Stock market's doing great. I mean, if you're in these, obviously you're in some of these other subsets, so you're not doing the best, but it's really about home prices and the real world. You're talking about doing price controls. If you look historically under price controls, that's a disaster waiting to happen, right? So many countries have done that. We've done that, and to avoid recessions or to really to try to even the market, or go to I was watching somebody on Facebook or YouTube the other day, and he was basically doing a comparison of his bill from like 3 or 4 years ago compared to what he's paying right now. I mean, you're talking 30 to 50% increase in prices. And that's what, you can say, economy's great. The stock market's doing awesome. It's not the economy. It's me as average Joe, 9 to 5 job. I can't buy as much right now as I could 4 years ago, or, let's say even before COVID. It's just that price of stuff has gone up. And so that then people start pointing to greed. Okay, Apple, Amazon, whatever company are pushing these limits, and that's why price control comes into that. But then you're not in a free market, right? So if people are still spending, that tells me they've got money. Okay, credit card debt is at all-time high, and so when all these things start to break and fall apart, and there's bankruptcies, and you start seeing that kind of stuff, then I think you'll see something. But for me, price control is not the answer. It's a free market. Let's do that. Quit buying, quit going on vacation, and when that starts to happen, that's kind of my key. Is really a lot of the retail stuff. Watch the retail and see their sales, right? The earnings around that. For me, once people quit buying, that tells me, all right, they've reached their max capacity for being able to afford things.
The price controls are scary, Piper. I'll give you that. Because I was reading this book I don't remember which one it was. I think it was that mental trader book anyways, long story short, it doesn't matter. They were talking about when there was price controls on, I think it was grain at the time. And this was back in, I think it was the 70s or 80s. And they put caps on how much it could charge. And so it was interesting. There was a huge arbitrage going on because the futures were actually higher than the spot price. And because they had caps on, and essentially that they had to unleash the cap because people were getting scalped on the black market, basically, right? Because it just didn't work. It was a really interesting, and just to kind of throw this in here, and because you were talking about Mag 7, this all plays in tune with your exact conversation, Piper. Here is the ES, right? And this thing is like redonkulous, right? Because we're talking about Mag 7. Now, there's a guy I follow on Twitter. I like him. His name's Double Wide Cap. And here is the S&P 500, but on an equal weight. Now, mind you, this is a monthly candle. These are monthly, right? And this is a monthly. So if you equal weight everything, look how long we've just been sitting in this huge range balanced out. But when you throw Mag 7 in the mix with the unequal rating, that's
Yep, exactly. Yeah, pull up Apple or Nvidia. I mean, they're really not the exact same chart, but same pattern, right?
It is.
Dip down, you rip it. Yeah.
And so I sent this to Rob, and this is kind of getting a little off track here, but I'll throw this up just so that you can see this. I thought it was really neat. I'm going to throw this, I think it's called Mag 7 index on here. And I'm just going to go down to like the daily time frame. Let's just see. Anyways, if you look at this, and here I'll try to go to even a smaller time frame. I was kind of tinkering with it over. Look at this. Look how it's form fitted perfectly to the ES.
Exactly. Yep.
It's literally the top 7 stocks controlling this entire market. It's insane. Yeah. When I overlaid this, I'm like, oh, maybe I can use this to kind of like help spot entries and stuff, right? Dude, it's literally the same fucking chart. I'm like, this is like, where is the other 500 stocks at?
Yeah. So I used to have a chart, and TradingView is great for this. So you can do SPY, and then you minus out, the individual stocks of Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, and you want to talk about, the difference in ratios. I mean, they're clearly driving the market, and the other ones are just kind of meh.
Yeah, I know. When I guess I didn't have any. I mean, I knew they were driving the market, right? But
to see it, like it's like right there. Right. Like we could say it, and then but to
it almost became useless. Like when I overlaid on my chart, I'm like, I can't use this. There's no edge here. Like this is the same fucking chart. So this thing actually, check this out. I'm gonna do it one more time just because it's almost laughable because this thing actually has the ability to change this from a line to candlesticks. Can you even tell me which one's the indicator and which one's the S&P? Like, I can't even tell. So I just thought, I mean, look at this down here. They're so ridiculous. So anyways, take it for what it's worth, but
Yeah, so obviously market sensitive to that, right? So you start to see that go, we're in trouble.
Just to bring up one more thing on that sort of bearish confirmation, you do have some pretty heavy hitters in some of those companies, or investors in those companies have been pulling out, like Warren Buffett, exited, $85 billion worth of Apple stock or whatever.
He's been holding that for like 10 years.
He's been. Has it been that long? Wow! I remember when he was flying it up. So you're
it's been a long ass time.
But you are seeing people start to take some profits, shall we say? So,
and think about like
2016.
Where's the squeeze at? When is that going to come? I mean, the long squeeze, right? So people are, uber bullish. I like to look at the market on a contrarian view, and not to be bearish, but I mean, so how easy would it be able to squeeze and create liquidity in this type of environment when everybody's looking the same direction? Like, hey, rocket shot, let's keep going, let's keep buying the highs. Somebody's going to get caught at some point, right? And when is that?
Well, I think we see 5,700 SPX. I'll say that. I think we see 5,700 probably, maybe even next week, possibly. Certainly before rate cuts, and that's me calling new all-time highs. So I think the all-time high is like 665, 675.
675, yeah.
So I think it's coming. I mean, I really, really do. I mean, we've had a really solid close on everything on Friday. And I was a little unsure, right? Because, I mean, we were kind of in this, as everybody knows, we had Jackson Hole and they're talking, the feds are talking. And I intentionally sat that day out. I'm like, let's kind of see where the dust settles. And I'll be damned if they didn't they did their damn thing at the end of the day. Like, there was a lot of solid closes on Nvidia, a lot of the stocks I'm watching, both the indices all closed super solid. So in my opinion, I'm buying, baby. Let's go. Because I hate to trade up here because I feel like, at the most I'm going to squeeze out of this thing is probably 50, 60 points. But I mean, it's still 50 or 60 points. So, because once we flick all-time highs, I assume that they will continue to go a little bit higher. But at some point, and maybe I'm wrong, but at some point, somebody's going to say, all right, we got to take new profits at these highs. Because Piper, you and I both know, and Rob too, I mean, we played the leg game, right? And so we came down, we played the leg, and now we're going to make a new high. I mean, trend satisfied, right? So here we go. Here's SPX. And we talked about it briefly in this week's outlooks, how we've essentially played this huge, massive leg end down here, which was also a perfect monthly on both Nvidia and the NASDAQ, by the way. I mean, a monthly literally to the tick. And so now, and look at this gain up here, man. We literally gained the support that was lost to the highs. I mean, this is new all-time high territory.
Nope.
I mean, I can't deny what I'm seeing here. So again, what I'm saying is if this is the leg up and we've came down and we pop back up, I've got some extensions here that I'm looking at, but at some point, I mean, they're going to want to do one of these, right? Just kind of come back or at least play this area and pop.
Right.
But, we'll see. So just insane to me. And check this out. I mean, dude, what? This is new all-time highs all day. Again, I have only one thing that's kind of in the way, which I would certainly. That's why when we were talking about, I said I can really see new highs for the S&P, but as far as the NASDAQ is concerned, we do have one more barrier.
That's a road bump right there.
Yeah, and look where we closed at.
I know, above.
We closed above the weekly support to the freaking all-time high again. I mean, these were massive closes, so we're headed here. I mean, from how my process works, we're headed here.
Yeah.
We're going. Now, what happens from there, I don't know, but that's where we're going. So, I mean, this is a nice, beautiful leg down here. But anyways, yeah, just insane. So
I dropped you an Nvidia chart. I know how much you love fibs, but you'll get a chuckle out of where this
Let's see what we got.
laid at.
Let me open this up.
You pop that 120, see ya. This is what this one shows me.
Oh yeah, dude. How funny is that? So I actually pulled, I did the same exact thing. I had a fib and yours is the 768. And so check this out. Look where I pulled mine from. Nvidia. So I came all the way down to this leg with the 618.
Yep.
So this is where I'm going to do the stock thing this weekend as soon as we get off here. We played the monthly, we played the weekly. We gained on this weekly by 2 cents, right? We got earnings coming up.
I know earnings, the 28th, I think.
Dude, this thing's going up. I'm buying this thing.
Are you just buying straight calls?
Yeah, straight up calls. Yep, I already got them written out. I'm buying the 130s for the end of the month, and I'm buying the 135s as well for the end of the month. And I think the ones I'm looking at are for the end of September, not August. So I want 30 days worth of premium at least because earnings aren't until the end of this week. So I'm just going to sit in these things. And this is going to be target one. When I make it to target one on my 130 call, I'm going to take the money off. And that should be enough money to have my 135 for free. And I'm going to ride this bitch. So, yeah. That's it. They're not cheap because I'm buying a month out. The 130 calls are $965 and the 135s are $755. But I mean, based on a charting perspective, I don't think I can be any more bullish on this thing. So you have this monthly that was played. We have this top-down monthly. When you go to the weekly, I mean, you guys know what's up. Look at that back test.
Yeah.
And look at this as the weekly support. So we back tested the monthly and the weekly, only to gain by 2 cents on the weekly leg down. Dude, what? Let's fucking go. Let's go. So, I'm trying. And then when you go even to the even smaller time frame, dude, this thing looks like it's stop.
Yep.
Fucking cut it out.
And kind of to plug the Vici levels. I mean, look at that. That's freaking ridiculous.
Dude, everything plays so perfect. There's no guessing here. You know what I mean? It's like it either is or it isn't. And I think the risk to reward on this is super nice. You lose 123, and the trade's over. It's done. And I don't even. I think you could probably even be even more conservative than that if you wanted to. That I'd say underneath these wicks, you got an issue at 126. So, anywho, yeah, dude, our process is love. I appreciate you pointing that out, Piper, because it's hard. It just there's no noise on this chart. There's not a billion indicators. There's not, it's just clear. The candlesticks kind of tell the whole story. So
talking about indicators, what about your Algo 1? What's that looking like on this chart?
So that's another.
I haven't looked at it, so I'm curious.
Okay, all right. Look, so I'll show you. A little
bit of a call out there. Let's see.
No, I appreciate that. Well, I'm actually one of the reasons why I like this trade, amongst others, which I'll go over later, is this thing. So here, this thing is actually, and it's really the moving average line. Rob, look at this. Look what it's underneath.
Yeah.
So Rob has a huge boner for this quadratic trend line.
And I had to research what that was, actually.
Dude, you had to research it. It's Rob being a geek, but this shit works. So he's in love with this thing, and so I'm looking at this. And Rob, you use this day in and day out for trading futures, as far as using it to for support, kind of ride it in the whole 9 yards. Dude, look at the way this thing's just resting on there. I mean, this couldn't be any more bullish to me. You go into even smaller time frames, and it's just everything about it is look at that way it's riding on the 1 hour. Right. So I'm looking at this and damn, this thing is super, super nice. So
look where that played that monthly on that quadratic line. And would that give you any confluence if you had that tool in your pocket to say, yeah, this is probably a good place to
down here?
No, up on that weekly monthly.
Right here.
Yeah, look on the whatever time frame you were on last.
The 4 hour.
4 hour. Yeah.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. Dude, look where it touched that line to the.
I know, right? So you knew this was a big area to lose, right? They back tested it. You were standing under this line, and boom.
Yeah. And then look on the other side of it where you would get long.
Yeah. That's kind of exactly what I'm saying, right? So we got above it. Our indicator fired to get long.
Yep.
Next candle immediately after. And
gap up. You're right in what, a day? No, less than a day.
So it's shooting 73% on the 4 hour, which is pretty damn good. And right now, this thing is changing. So Rob actually put some new features in here for people who want a little bit more trend confirmation. So if you go like this and change this, and this is for people who like this type of style, you can get an idea where the gray is kind of an indecision area.
Right.
So we went really bullish up into here, and now we're starting to turn green again. And my guess is we'll probably get another buy signal here pretty shortly. If I had to guess. I see Rob fucking cheesing over there. He's like,
yeah.
This looks right.
I mean, so obviously a lot of people, this is new, right? So a lot of people don't know what this is. But Rob, without giving away any sauce, can you kind of give a high level on it? I know you got a description inside, TradingView if you go.
Yeah. Well, so the trend line is something that I've been kind of working on for a bit.
How long is a bit, Rob? Tell us what a bit is. 6 months, a year,
months, year. Because one of the things about moving averages is that there are different types of adaptive moving averages out there, but you plug in a certain number of how many periods you want to take the average of, say 20 periods, and then just by nature of how much you have in there, it takes 10 periods to really move the needle and get it's the half-life of the cycle to move things around. And so I was trying to find ways that something that would be adaptive yet fast and snappy enough to be able to catch things. And so one of my buddies who's a quantitative trader at Bridgewater. I was talking to him about his team, and he's got a bunch of PhDs on staff, and they almost all work on like different types of linear regressions. And so this is basically a bit of a linear regression model to help um, follow trend and price. So that's really kind of like the genesis of the idea, was something that was adaptive, fast and snappy enough, and then something that would, for me personally and selfishly, help keep me in a trade once I'm in. Because once I'm in a trade, you're always sort of second guessing yourself once you get to a level like, okay, this could turn here, it may not. But if I see the trend line continue to move up and we're staying above it, I'm amazed, just even on a 1 minute chart, like how many times it comes and tests the trend line and then just goes again. And that's really helped me stay in trades a lot longer. I can see that in my average hold time going up.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
because I've used some adaptive. Kaufman, probably I don't know if it's
Yeah,
the
that's
most
like
famous,
the most,
yeah,
yeah.
most well used or most used. And no, it's interesting because I'd asked Bailey, I'm like, what time frame is you guys finding success? He's like, pick it. It's like, yeah, it's good, man.
yeah, well, this is a 4 hour, right? And so I actually am in this trade. I saw like this thing starting to bottom out, and based on our process, this was a huge this was a huge area. And I'll just show you guys because you guys will understand. This was the weekly, monthly down here. And I'm like, I think this thing started to bottom out. So I got in small on this trade just to kind of begin with, and then I used then Rob kind of made some adjustments, and I threw this on this chart, and I'm like, holy crap, like look at the way this is holding this right here. So I doubled down in my position right here. And then this thing, actually what happened was, not only did it ride it, but I liked my original thought process that this might be the bottom. We got over the weekly, then Rob's algo fired a buy, and I'm like, okay, all right, let's just do this. Let's come on. All right. So, I look at the win rate, it's 80%. I'm like, okay, like let's jump in this joint. And so, yeah, it's hard to deny what he's built here. It is absolutely impressive. And, right now I'm showing like long-term trades, right? Like here here is CCI. We called this last week in our stocks to watch. A couple of us are in it in the room. This thing is really kind of sitting on this massive weekly level right here, which is just absolutely beautiful. And when you look at it, you got like 8 or 10 days worth of accumulation phase in here, and then we just went from no trade to green. And then on the 4 hour, this thing just fired a buy on Friday, and I'm waiting for it now to fire a buy tomorrow. But I'm going to double down on my position on Monday here. And again, I think really what Rob said is exactly right. And we put this in the trading view. This isn't supposed to be a substitute for your technical analysis. This is more of a way that if you're a little bit hesitant to get in on a trade, or you need like that confirmation to like, okay, yes, I'm supposed to pull the trigger. Like this is really where this thing shines, in my personal opinion. Would you say, Rob?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And you'll get in a little, when you're waiting on some turns and candles to close for confirmation. You'll get in a little later than if you had it perfect on a touch of your own level. And so I added as like an additional layer to our
Yeah.
Right.
trading process.
Well, I'm going to throw this out here because you and I use this for two separate things. I'm using it to help swing confirmation bias, and you're using it also as well during the day trading side of it to just kind of help give you that little extra, right? So
for
we
sure.
look at certain things from a day time frame, a 4 hour time frame. Here's a 1 minute time frame. This thing's shooting 80% win rate on SPX for Friday. I mean, I don't trade that well. I can promise you that. I show you my stat. So it's one of those things.
It's been nice.
Don't fade this thing. If this thing says something, like you better be damn sure.
You can see I got long off that low in the morning, and see how it held the trend line. And we got up to that level where I thought we may turn because we had a prior turn there, your yellow level, and it just held the trend line all the way up.
Yep, all the way up.
Yeah.
I know. This thing's a beast. And then the same thing for the short, right? You made the
Yeah,
short, the back tested the line, kind of held it most of the way down. Yeah, this has been a really phenomenal little thing you put out there. Thanks for the shout out, Piper.
Yeah, no, because I did some initial just looking at. I was looking at like how to set up alerts on it, whatever. And but like you're saying, like on the trend confirmation, like I don't know if there was an hourly up there that you were looking for, potential stall out, but
Right.
yeah, the trend said stay here, man. Keep keeping this thing, and so
Yeah,
for that
it's pretty
confirmation
cool.
to stay in a trade, and let alone getting into the trade. I mean, for me, it looks like it has potential for some multiple uses. So I like that, and plus when you said machine learning, I'm like, oh, that sounds like a juicy term. No, just kidding.
Yeah, right. It's a buzzword, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the machine learning doesn't play into the trend line; it plays into when the arrows go.
Okay.
Okay. Can
So
you,
yeah, the
can you
machine learning is looking at something totally separate and trying to like line up a bunch of stars, trying to figure out, okay, over the past 2,000 bars, when has this sort of like been a more profitable entry?
Right. Yeah.
So, Piper, just as you know, I mean, and this isn't going to get into the sauce by any means, but Rob's got like 5 or 8 different things in the background, and they're all on like a grading system. And so when you have certain ones that line up, like you have to have 4 of the 8 or whatever line up in order to give you a good enough signal, to whatever. And so all like it basically is graded. Like sometimes if it fires 3, it's like that's not good enough and it won't tell us, right? So it actually kind of takes it all and says, all right, well, this has worked in the past, so now let's use it again to, and it adjusts that way. So kind of cool.
No, really cool because I mean that's actually inspired me to look at some of my old tools I built because I've done not similar to that, but some confirmations and yeah, if I can plug that in, didn't even know it was a capability of Trading View, but pretty cool stuff.
Well, I think, like you said, they've improved this substantially
Oh
over
yeah.
the past few years. So
Anywho,
anybody who's interested in wanting to check this out, we've got this on a trial basis right now. Just send us a DM. I'll give you 30, 40 days for free, whatever, into September. All we ask of you guys is to give us solid feedback. What don't you like about it? What's working? What's not working? How we can make it better? What things you'd like to see implemented? I mean, we are willing to hand this out to anyone and everyone. We just want you to give us feedback. That's the only thing it costs you is your time for feedback. So please hit us up. I want you to have it. So because you're going to help me out in the long run. Like it's going to be. So yeah. It's very selfish of me. It's very selfish.
oh man.
Yeah.
No, I mean honestly, like just getting feedback and how other people use it and things you do to improve upon it are always welcome.
So Piper, for people who don't know, just to kind of leg into another conversation here, Piper is in the cybersecurity field. He has been in it as long as I've known him, and you got into it right out of the military, didn't you, Piper?
Yes. Yep. Actually,
Okay.
yeah. That's went to college, got my computer science degree, and that took me down this road.
Nice. That's what's up. And how long? And so you did it out of college and in the military? Is that right?
No military. I mean, right now it's a great time to get into that if you're looking, but no, I didn't do that.
So do me a favor. I mean, again, I don't know anything about CrowdStrike. I mean, everybody like we had this huge global fallout from one company, producing a bad update from a lazy coder essentially, and it crashed the entire world. And what's funny is my mom was actually one of the people who was stuck in the airport during that whole like thing, and it was like, I had to hear about it for a week about how it was but so I had firsthand experience with this. So, dude, tell us what's like, what the F happened? Like, we know what happened, but I kind of cut you off earlier when I said I wanted to talk about this, but Rob made a very valid comment. Are they the only player in the space? Like how is this possible?
So they're not the only player, but when you got Google that's heavily invested in your company, I mean, it's over $1 billion company, value wise, or valuation. And yeah, Google bought into their seed rounds. And yeah, when you got that kind of backing and influence, I mean, that's going to push you to the top. And it really has. I mean, there's other solutions out there. And I think out of this global incident that, I mean, affected every Windows computer out there, right? So, I mean, if you don't know what CloudStrike is. I mean, really
Please,
kind of
for those
came
who don't-
into notoriety out of the Sony picture hack. I don't know if you remember when that was. It was like, I don't even know. It was after 2010, maybe. I forget what year that was, but they got hacked and they got some of their films released out of that, and
Well, that's
so
right, because North Korea was upset by a couple of the movies that
yeah.
Yes.
written out.
That's right.
Yeah.
They had the Jim Kong Un movie or whatever. I remember. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So they're, they got some notoriety out of that because they helped with the investigation. So not only do they do endpoint security, but they do some threat intelligence and some incident response stuff. And obviously, on that endpoint security, that's on local machines and that global incident, right? So they, had some miscoding there and got released and opened up some vulnerabilities. They quickly reversed that, and actually our company, before we even woke up and logged on, they had that secured because they were able to
Did
roll
you
that
just
back,
wake up
so.
to someone calling you, or did you?
No. So I'm more on right now I'm on the oversight compliance audit side. So we're looking at controls that are put in place and, making sure our systems are up to snuff and, working testing wise. So working with Booz Allen, some other private companies that come in, do some attacks on us, basically to, check our security and our systems with known threats out there. And obviously white hack, you look, there's ways to get into any system, right? So it really just kind of industry standard stuff, make sure we're in compliance with a lot of that. So that's where I'm at right now. But no, and really when that happened, my mindset was, of course, vacation mode, right? So I'm going to go away.
Yeah.
And I
Glad
think
I'm not at work today.
No, well, I would, yeah. So when that happened, though, I'm like, I looked at the stock, right? So I'm like, dude, this thing isn't going away. It's the number one solution out there on about every computer in the world. This may take a pretty nasty hit right now, but it's going to recover.
50%. I just learned.
I know. So
50%. I had no idea.
Yeah, but did you see where it played off of?
I guess.
Yeah.
The spot.
Yep. Yeah. So it's like, it's funny. We even say this, right? Like, our levels a lot of time coincide with incidents, releases, news events, and so it's funny to see that go and where it went to. So obviously there's people looking for opportunity to buy in levels, that, well, it was funny that hit perfectly. I was like, okay, so yeah, I'm up 50% now. But yeah, so anyways, on vacation, it was right about the time that I was getting ready to go. So I'm like, I'm going to watch this thing, and I lost track of it and it took off on me. But that's really like, I obviously not inside track, but knowing the level of influence this company has, and but now we're looking for diversification. So we're looking at other tools to for our threats and our endpoint security. So, but yeah, they're the number one out
Piper,
there.
my real question is, and again, I this is where I struggle with the whole thing. Why are they on every single Windows computer? Like, I guess my thing is, like, how are they that big that there is no one else? I mean, you said there's other players, but they're like, they don't matter. Right?
No. I mean, think of it like AWS or Azure, or I mean, there's other solutions out there, but they're the guy, at the top of the market, and that's what they were, and they just continue to gain market share, and that they were proven success. And obviously, if you have high risk incidents that you're involved in from the threat intelligence, or the after action, what happened, how do we fix it, what do we implement to stop this in the future, any kind of cyber attacks going forward. I mean, these were the guys that had the notoriety out of these incidents as well. I mean, not only the Sony company, but I mean, they work with the FBI on some stuff, and just so they were in the know, and they had the backing financially through Google, and they just rose to the top. And
So
it's a good product. So
how did this affect your business at all, or did it help? Did it hurt? Like, did it? Like, I'm just
not
curious.
really, because there was really nothing wrong with the product, right? And so it was some code that
So for that bit of code,
yeah, right. So I mean,
not
more so for CrowdStrike than the cybersecurity community. I mean, other
Yeah.
than saying, okay, well, obviously, if this was something a little bit more serious, or they couldn't reverse this was self inflicted by CrowdStrike. But if this was something on a bigger scale attack, right? A state-sponsored attack, something like that. Yeah, I mean, this could have been really bad, and I guess that's what we derived from that was we were lucky on this, because if it was a true hack that was malicious, you really could have shut down financial markets. I mean, there's so much damage that could have been done on this. So really, that's what we're looking at as far as implementing updates. Working with the company to look at rollbacks, how quickly we can do that. And we were able to do that relatively quickly in response.
I read the whole rollback sequence of events that you have to do. It was insane. Like, I don't, Joe Sixpack, at home, who does family tech support, there's no way they could have done the rollback.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, that's you're
Like,
talking
just
whole departments working on this thing. So yeah.
Yeah. It looked like a pretty long sequential list of events.
Yeah, there were guys up late that night, so we'll say that.
Yeah.
So tell us who we need to be looking at that's not CrowdStrike. Who's the up and coming player in the space that's looking to take some of their market share?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any specifically. I mean, there obviously are some, and I mean, it really is something that we need.
Names out there. I'm just curious. Just throw some names. I don't know. I don't know anything. So
yeah. Really, I don't have any that are. I mean,
they're that big. Really,
yeah.
Wow, that's insane.
I mean, that's what we've got a whole group working on that. Like, what is the alternative? So, I mean, as we find some of that out, maybe that's something we could share in later episodes, like up and comers when other companies start taking market share. And obviously, I mean, if you look at the rebound of this thing, it's going.
It's a 40% already.
Yeah, it's already up.
That's insane. I mean. This is talk about volatility, but I mean, so do you expect this thing just to kind of reclaim all of
it'll reclaim its
glory?
I do. Yep. So and honestly, after missing this, I'm just looking for a pullback to get in.
I gotcha. Yeah, because it's still a deal, right? I mean, at this point, and what's weird, and again, this is just me being ignorant in the space, but I've never even heard of this company until the fallout. I mean, I've heard of CRWD. I guess I didn't even realize what they did. There was no and I didn't realize the size and the impact that they had on the space in general. The fact that they were the only player in this space. I guess if I would have known that a long time ago, I would have been looking at
how important it is. Yeah, and it's publicly traded. It's kind of
I mean, this thing went from sub $100 to $400 in a little over a year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's an insane move.
Yeah, and can you imagine getting in at that $200? I mean, God. I mean, on this pullback, obviously you wouldn't have. I mean, it was a direct hit. To me, it was when I looked at the chart. I'm like, "Are you freaking?"
Dude, I sent you this picture. Like, it was even this little daily over here. Like, look how they legged up that daily.
Yeah.
Look at that. That was so tits. That was good.
Crazy.
Pretty wild.
Yep.
Yeah. So. I mean, if you could get a pull back into this weekly, that'd be nice. I just not. I'd have to really kind of chart it out and look. But,
yeah. I mean, it's got some resistance up here, but I'm just looking for that for road bump and to, get an opportunity.
That'll give you your pullback to
get exactly. Yep.
Yep. For sure. Well, I appreciate you sharing your expertise there, because I have kind of been wanting to talk to you about this. Because this is, again, like I said, I'm just ignorant in the space, so. I really appreciate you sharing that information. Before we get off the pipe, you guys want to run through a few things that we're looking at for the week, and then
yeah, sure.
Okay, let's see. So let's just talk Bitcoin real fast. Let's talk Bitcoin real fast. I'm going to talk Bitcoin because Piper and I we're crypto bros. Totally crypto bro, and I'm trying to get Rob in the scene. But so this Bitcoin. Now I got to tell you, and I did a Substack post on this yesterday. If you guys haven't watched it, definitely recommend it. And the thing is here. I mean, I got to be honest. This thing, it looks bullish as hell, right? I mean,
well, especially that back test. I think that last back test gave you the real bullish.
It is, yeah, and they played it fantastic. And the thing is, I really wanted them to dip a little bit lower into the 55,000. But Piper, how many times have we wanted that to happen, and then we end up getting like our ass handed to us trying to like stuff the highs, right? And so, that's the thing about Bitcoin is it never really does exactly what you want it to. I feel like sometimes, like there's always a little front running going on in there, or a little overplay.
What's funny about this? So, obviously our swing play, if you look to the left, we played it for the short. And then you just played the inverse of that. So, we always talk about trade to failure, and it's just like, gained, back tested that thing and ripped.
So here's my big concern, right? So I'm still low key quasi bearish Bitcoin in a sense, and I'm not bearish in a sense I think it's going to zero, but I don't think that this very well could be the move that takes us up. But just looking at it from a charting perspective, I have two quick things that I want to point out, right? So we're still making lower highs, right?
Yep.
And we continue to smack the high lost over and over and over again, right? Like, we get a high here, we played the high loss here, we came down. The big thing that was for me is we closed lower here, so we lost on the weekly, right?
Right.
And they pop back up, and it set up another perfect high lost, and we smacked it. Now, what scares me about this is obviously we came off some pretty solid structure to the left, even though it didn't make it into our zone down here. And what's funny is, can you see what that says, Piper? BTC generational buy.
Buy it.
So salty.
Yeah.
So the thing is, they front ran me by just a few grand. So I'm like, man, maybe that was just it, right? But here's my concern. So we popped up. Yes, we still have lower highs. Yes, we still have an untested monthly and 2 untested weeklies up here. I do think this gets a reaction, but what was wild is we did not lose on the weekly again. They saved it.
Yeah.
Right. And so this very well could do like this number here. It's possible.
Good.
Now, again, as of right now, we're continuing to lose. And just because they saved it doesn't mean they still haven't gained.
No. Right? So look at it on a daily perspective. You want a bearish outlook on it. I mean, obviously the higher time frame prevails, but for me, that's more telling about potential.
Agreed. And I am looking to short this area up here. Even if it's just for a small pullback. Obviously, I'm going to be looking for more just based on what we know. And, the thing is, and you and I had this quick discussion before, Bitcoin is a quote unquote, deflationary product, right? And so, everybody's like, oh, Bitcoin's the shit because inflation's going crazy. And this is, there's only 21 million. So et cetera, right? But we know that if they're really going to drop interest rates, that's not good for Bitcoin because people would rather put their money in a high risk asset that's like stock invested, like stock based, because it's less risk, it's cheaper money, right? And so high interest rates are actually good for Bitcoin, and low interest rates are actually bad, from what I understand how this works. And so I thought that was a very interesting, it's very interesting to kind of put it in those terms if you think about it, because yes, I still think we can come up. Yes, I don't know if we're going to smack right away. Yes, we might sit up here before we get that pullback. And is it going to take us into September? Like Rob and I have kind of been, we're thinking about being low key, quasi low key bearish in September, right? Is that what we're seeing here that essentially takes us here? I don't know. But
to me, you got that high loss with that weekly monthly center.
Dude, this is big. Yep. This is super big. Look at this monthly. I mean, this is a big spot. And as much as I'm like wowed by the size of these wicks, it is what it is.
Yeah, obviously they're buying it up, right? Hard. The other thing, for me, is you brought up the 21 million coins. Obviously, there's a lot less than that as lost coins. I think. I don't know. Last time I think I looked, it was 18 or 16 million. I mean, it's 18, yeah. So obviously there's not that. But then I get into, institutional, obviously BlackRock's heavy into it, and are we going to fall into, with the ETF as a fractional reserve? Is it truly a 1-for-1 now that they're in there? I don't know.
It's definitely not. And they're not buying Bitcoin. I think where a lot of people get twisted about the whole, ETF thing is BlackRock's not buying the Bitcoin to hold it in a wallet. they're buying and selling it based on the inflows and the outflows of the ETF. And so everybody's like, "Ooh, BlackRock, Bitcoin," but it's like, but they're not buying it because they think it's like an amazing asset. They're buying it because the ETF is based on that. You know what I mean? So it's like if people sell the ETF, guess who's selling Bitcoin? BlackRock. So it's like the name sounds good, but it's not really what I think. People are so stuck on BlackRock that I don't think they're really looking at how does the stock work? How does the ETF work? Well, they balance it out based on the inflow or the outflow or the consumer. And so, I don't know. That's my thing. So,
yeah, and I mean, speaking ETFs, and because everybody's like, okay, what's the next ETF? Soul's obviously getting talked about, but I'm like, and somebody that I was listening to or talking to, like, there won't be one because nobody has a futures contract other than Ethereum and Bitcoin. Therefore, it's already in traditional markets. Other than that, until you get that, there's really no other viable ETF on the crypto space. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
No, I think that sounds about right. I mean, the issue is you got that Gary Gensler guy that's still in power, and he likes to call everything a security if he gets the opportunity to.
Yeah.
So nothing's going to get an opportunity to even, they can't even try anything until he's gone.
Right.
You know what I mean? So here it is on the CME futures, by the way. I thought this was it obviously looks very similar. This is how I trade Bitcoin, but I thought it was interesting for you to see this monthly and this weekly up here. Then you got this daily. And when you really kind of like zoom into it, like look how juicy this looks. Look at that. Look at that head and shoulder up there. This looks nice to me.
Yeah.
I think the risk is right. It's all right. The high time frame is right. We got 3 corresponding levels. Again, I don't know if this is the level that like makes it shit or not, but I do expect to get a reaction up here. So, anyways, so that's my Bitcoin spiel for now.
Yep. No, that chart talks to me with those levels and everything. I'm like.
Yeah, and what's weird is like, yes, I know spot is what we have to rely on because it's obviously spot. It's the real Bitcoin, and
right.
And you can see what they played over here, which is this big boy here. But when you go to the future side of it, check this out. They really didn't come off of anything but this wick, which it just makes me wonder if this is a liquidity pop. That's all.
Right.
Yeah, because it's not like structure.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay, so you bought this wick up. Okay, cool. So now do we come up here and then you take a month or two to get slammed again to come all the way back down to actually buy some real support? So Piper, you have said one thing to me, I don't know, it's like 2 years ago, and I think about it all the time. Piper had this saying when we were trading ES together, never buy the first pullback, right? And so this was really the big ass first pullback we had, right? And so for the entire year. And so it just made me think, like, when I saw this, I'm like, I wonder if there's any legitimacy to this particular claim this time. So just a deep thought.
There you go. We'll see. Levels are there, so we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, gentlemen, is there anything else that you want to kick around here?
No, I think that was pretty good.
Did you hit ES at all or NQ? Or?
No, do you want to?
That's high level.
Yeah, we can, and that way you don't have to. You can roll it into your weekly review, or you don't.
Yeah. Let's just talk SPX. How's that?
Yeah.
All right. So let's throw in SPX here before we call it quits, guys. All right. So I know this chart looks crazy, but with all the lines on it. But I'm not. I'm already charted up for next week. So here's the deal. Look at this close. We literally closed above the high loss weekly. I mean, in my opinion, this screams new all-time highs, which is not a far fetch considering we're only talking about 30, maybe 40 points. And let's measure this out here. What percent move is this? I'm sure it's less than 1%. It's 0.6. So we only have to move a half a point or half of a percentage point, basically 35 points to make new all-time highs on SPX. I mean, it smells like it's coming to me.
Yeah.
So that's where I was kind of getting the fact that 5,700 is absolutely on my radar. Let's go down to the daily time frame. Lordy, that looks rough. All right, I'll tell you what, I'll wipe this out. So here's what we'll do. I want to put this one drawing back here. I'm going to go back to this daily, and I'll just do this with you guys right now. This is our daily leg to the all-time high, guys. That's our guy, right? And then this is our major support here. As you can see, this was the daily that took us to the low for this leg down. All right, now nasty lasties is this final daily up here. So, and the last but not least, this was our daily leg down that they made. So here we go. All right, you know what? I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to do that. So this right here, just so that you guys understand, this
Tyler, you may want to mute your mic.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's no problem. You probably couldn't tell it was coming through.
Yeah, no, it's okay. All right, so let's try this again. All right, so what I did here was I marked the high lost area here, and I marked the support to the high. Okay, that's what these pinks are. Okay, this is the daily here that took us all the way to the low. So you can see we played this on Thursday. And then the daily leg to the all-time high, we played on Friday, right? That was a huge, huge touch. Okay, so let's just go down to the small. Well, first, before I do that, this was the high lost. This is our main daily structure. We know we closed above on the weekly structure. Now our daily structure, and you can see that they closed right above it on SPX. So now, what are we looking for next? Ooh, it's this guy right here. There we go. It closed right above it. So now what are we looking for over here? Well, I will show you. So we played this daily perfect, which Rob and I, we watched happen in real time. They actually front ran us on ES to play this SPX level. I was not a happy camper. So anyways, as we move up, we really are starting to progress, and we only have this one little spot above us on 56.67. And our risk here is pretty well defined, in my opinion. I mean, when you look at this, we have a spot down here, and I'll mark it for you guys. This is a 1 hour, and I'll just leave it at that for now. But we essentially have, if we were to pull back, we have a nice little spot here at 55.97, which could provide support. There's actually a 4 hour in here and a few other things. So I really like this spot. This is the weekly POC as well. And it's also a weekly POC on ES. And we have a huge bullish imbalance on the profile as well. So all signs are leading to more up. We've got a gain. As you can see, we have a gain on the daily. We have a gain on the weekly. We played the weekly leg to the all-time high. We have a bullish imbalance. I mean, there's just so much for us to believe that we are going to continue to pop this high. And then, of course, let's not forget, we have Nvidia earnings on Thursday, which, in my opinion, and let me just throw these out here right now, and this is going to kind of take away from some of the impact of the stock thing I'm going to do. But like we talked about, we gained here, right? We've back tested all that. In my opinion, this is our first test, and then we go higher. And Nvidia is carrying a massive amount of weight right now on our S&P, and so it really could be the next catalyst to kind of just pop us on Thursday, really to that extreme high. And so, I guess on a skinny scale, when you're looking at this, you can kind of see why I'm still bullish and what we're thinking might happen. Rob, you got any thoughts? Because I know that you've probably analyzed these things more than once.
No, I've been thinking the same thing. We're so close to clipping the all-time highs. We had that back test. I think that 1 hour, and I even have a 4 hour that has been tested, but it just had a long wick through it. So I thought 55, 95 kind of.
Is this ES you're talking, or
yes.
or SPX?
SPX.
Okay.
And so I think, that's kind of where I'm looking for getting long as well. I mean, I know you're already in the long, so I'm late to the bandwagon, but yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, listen, Friday was rough. I mean, the price action was all over the place. I mean, we had, it's not even that the price action was rough. It was just scary for me to really kind of get invested. I believe this is the 4 hour you're talking about. Right?
Yeah.
So again, it lines up with our 1 hour there, right? And here's another thing that I thought was interesting, Rob. I'm getting different levels based on whether I go ETH or RTH. So let me just show you. So before, there's a 1 hour down here on RTH. I marked it. But on ETH, the 1 hour is up here. And so it's kind of weird. So we've got the 4 hour down here, and I don't think it's tested. It's barely, I wouldn't even call it really tested on the arch. So somewhere in this zone, between
somewhere in that zone,
85, I'm really want to buy this thing up pretty heavily. So thank you for throwing that out there. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up, and that kind of coincides with the rest of our feel for the overall broader market, wouldn't you say?
I think so. The other one is if you got RTA or RTY charted. For me, there was an interesting play on that. We got a weekly coming in.
I can't promise I got anything good on that, but I'll pull it up and see.
Yeah, for me, it's looking strong as well. But
I would say.
Right.
So look at the way they accumulated on top of this weekly, monthly level right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just really just pushed up something insane. So we're going to come test this high up here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's next spot. I mean, if you get pullbacks for me, you're good.
If you get to pull back to 2180 or something. To
me, you got a good buy to ride that up if you can get something decent on the pullback.
I think they popped like 3.5% on Friday or something like that.
It's crazy. Yeah, I know.
3.14. Yeah, that was big. I mean, they just kind of sat here and percolated before the push. But this thing is, this was another big, this area up here, we sat up here for a whole year and distributed. A whole year. And then they sat down here for another 2 years and accumulated. So, so then they pop
your
up.
mind, Russell traders.
They smacked these highs, came all the way down, and now we're on our way back up. Now the only thing left is this one that Piper was calling out, which is this weekly, monthly area here at 273. Yeah. And it looks, quite frankly, it looks fantastic. I just don't know how much of a reaction it will provide. I mean, it looks like it will provide a reaction, but we are clearly trending up on all these markets. And one thing I actually learned from a guy in our room who works at Goldman, he was telling me that the Russell, all the stocks in the Russell are very interest rate sensitive, more so than stocks in the S&P and the NASDAQ, because these are more of growth stocks and they're not as, I guess you could say, aggressive, but they're very much more interest rate sensitive. Another thing I found out, Rob, I don't know if you knew this about RTY or the Russell in general, is if you look at the top 10 weighted stocks on RTY, or the Russell, they're not like the Mag 7.
No, it's such a big,
they're actually
broad index that they don't have that sort of overweighted.
It's nice. It's actually like a real index. It's like all the stocks actually have to do something in order for the market to move. It's not just like the top 10, so I found that to be kind of refreshing, honestly, because I'm a little bit tired of these markets being driven by AI or whatever, right? So anyway, does that help, Piper? I just happen to have a chart.
Yep.
So, yeah.
No, I pulled it over and just took a look at it. I was like,
what's weird about looking at just as a guy who doesn't look at the Russell, like it looks like there was a period there between, say, April and October of last year where it was like in this crazy zone, and that bottom looks like a triple bottom. So if it ever does come back down there, I expect to break that.
Yeah, right? Yeah, seriously. But what a huge tell down here, right? If you rejected 3 times without making new lows, I wish I would have been on top of this in 2023, because this was great periods. Okay. All right. Well, that's fair, guys. Unless you got anything else, I think we did a nice little, we're about at our time. So, unless you got anything else you want to chime in, I really appreciate you coming in, Piper. And,
thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, it's good seeing you guys. Yeah, like I say, it's been a while.
Yeah, and welcome back from vacation. Hopefully everything will be good.
Yeah, back to reality, right?
Dude, tell him what you said when I was like, it feels like you've been on vacation for like 2 months. And he's like, I have.
Yep. It's gone.
That's crazy. You're lucky. I love it.
That's great.
All right, gentlemen. You guys be good. Everyone have a good one. And be
All
on
right.
the lookout for this week's publication.